Welcome, everybody, and thank you so much for joining. For those of you who are here, and there are still a lot of you joining. I know this is a hard time when people are busy with the kids at home, and I really appreciate Debbie for making yourself available and doing this for our community. Um, so I'd like to start by, first of all, my name is Aron. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I've been working with couples for the last couple of years, and I've seen what this work can do and what is possible, and that made me really want to get the word out, and that's why you guys are all here tonight. So good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for joining. It's not simple to show up to a webinar about couples counseling or couples therapy. People hear couples therapy, couples counseling, all of a sudden they have a thousand different things to do. They get busy with everything, and yet you guys are here tonight dedicating your time right now to help bring your marriage to a better place. So I really appreciate all of you who made the time and effort to join us tonight. Let me tell you a little bit about myself and about what this webinar tonight is about. And we're going to introduce a little bit who Debbie is, and you guys will get to hear Debbie afterwards, and you'll get to ask questions. So, thank you all for being here tonight and for doing this for yourself, for your partner, for your kids, for the community. This is a big moment in history, I think, in our community to finally bring this into the public and get the word out for the general public and not just professionals to get to understand marriages and relationships better. So thank you all for being part of history tonight. And like I said before, for those who weren't here, my name is Aron Hirschfeld. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm the founder and director of Revive. Revive is a group practice of carefully selected therapists who are specialists and real experts in the work that they do. One of the things that we really specialize in is couples therapy that you'll hear more about later. And thinking about bringing down someone to teach the community about couples therapy and marriage, there was no better person or name to think of other than Debi Scimeca-Diaz. I'd like to start with why I'm doing this and why I'm in this type of work right now. When I started in this field of therapy, I wasn't planning on being a couples therapist or working with couples specifically. It was my experience and what I saw that really changed everything. It all started around 5 years ago when I took my first training in couples therapy with Debi Scimeca-Diaz in New Jersey. And I remember exactly where I was sitting at that training. I remember who I was with, and I remember everything changed from that moment. From my personal life to my professional life, I saw everything from a different lens. It was like I got a new pair of glasses and I can finally see the world differently. I can finally see the world in a real way with true colors. And I started seeing everything differently. I started seeing my clients differently. I started seeing my own relationship differently. And from that moment, I could not let go. And everything that I experienced and saw after that just added to that initial um, experience that I had. I keep meeting couples over the years, and I keep noticing and seeing that couples really, really want to make it work. Couples really love each other. They really care about each other. And they're like so confused. What's happening? Why aren't things the way that we would have wanted? And many times it is. And couples can still benefit and get a lot more than they think they can, or things that they didn't think were possible, or things that they've long given up hope on. Um, and couples keep asking, like, what's happening? What's happened to us? Like, we've been in a really good place. We had a great relationship. We still have a good relationship, but we somehow keep getting into conflict and patterns and stuff. And the more I started doing this work, I started noticing how we all are human and longing for the same thing deep inside. And that all the things on the surface, as you guys will hear from Debbie later, is just a part of the picture. And the more we look into what's happening, the more we get to see that we're all longing for and wanting the same thing. We all are longing for the same connection deep inside. And those moments in therapy, when we get to work with these couples, and I get to see the changes and the shifts, the deep connection, the look in the couple's eyes when they look at each other and have those moments of connection that some of them never even thought was possible, or something that they'd long given up on. Those moments, they leave a lasting impression. And this is why I'm so passionate about this work. This is the reason why I'm like screaming from the rooftops and sending out emails and making noise and putting out videos. More people should hear this. People should know this, because all I hear from couples afterwards is, why has no one told us any of this till now? Where were we till now? Why didn't we know about this? And so we finally made it happen. And this is for you guys to yes know about this and hear a little bit from Debi. And let me tell you guys a little bit about Debi, because there are a lot of couples therapists out there, and there are a lot of modalities and trainers and a lot of great people out there. My experience with Debi the last couple of years was just something that I want for everyone to be able to experience. The way Debi has this ability to touch people in a very deep way and to move people's hearts. And I've worked a lot and seen Debi's work up close, and it's just so moving and fascinating to see her work close up. And I didn't want to be selfish, and I wanted you all to get to experience a little bit of this also. So here we are, and without further ado, Debi, you're up.
Thanks, Aaron. That was really nice. A lot of things that you said, I was like, yep, yep, yep. So, I first want to say thank you so much for having me here. And I feel like it's an honor to be here speaking to people in your community. It was probably about 5 years ago, or maybe 7 years ago. Because if I met you 5 years ago, I probably met you also 7 years ago, that we started on this journey to spread the word. and help people get information that most people, whether it's in your community or in my community, they just don't have. And I wish it was something that we could start teaching in schools, right? It would be like amazing. So I'll tell you guys a little about myself, and then I will talk a little bit about relationships. So I'm almost 30 years in the field. I was very fortunate to have met Dr. Sue Johnson, who is the originator of emotionally focused couples therapy. So I met her when I was a student, and I remember sitting at my first training, just like Aaron remembers his first training. And I remember sitting there and being completely moved emotionally and feeling like this is what matters in life, right? Like you kind of get through all the other stuff and like this is what matters, our relationships and our relationships with the most important person that we have. So I began my journey early on, like saying, okay, I want to help couples because um, at that first training, actually, I didn't really think about the couples that I was working with. I was actually thinking about my own marriage and learning so much about myself and my own relationships. And that was really, really powerful. So then, of course, I had to go back and redo the training as a therapist. So I want to ask you guys, whoever's here who might be a therapist, I'm going to ask you to take off your therapist hat. Don't be a therapist as you listen to the talk tonight. I want you to be a human being, somebody who has really significant relationships, whether you're in a relationship with a partner or not. Our significant relationships start from the day that we're born and they run through the day that we die. This goes from parents to partners. These are the most important people in our lives. And these relationships are very, very powerful, have huge impact on us. Um, so I've been training therapists for 15-ish years, maybe 20. I lose track of things. But it's really my passion is to get therapists trained because the more people I train, the more people they impact when they go out into their job, into their world and they're seeing clients. So I have a real passion for that, spreading the word and getting this information out. So I'm going to go on a screen share here and share some stuff with you guys. So bear with me one second. So as Aaron's kind of doing some background stuff, I just want to say to everybody that, it's really common and normal, and it happens to everybody, is that we get hurt in our relationships. It's just part of our humanness. And because we are emotional beings, getting hurt in relationships is part of it. So when we do get hurt in these relationships, it really does make a lot of sense for us to create healing in those relationships, which is where kind of couples therapy comes from, or the art of marriage. Like if we really know what marriage is and we can understand it on a deeper level, and we can acknowledge when we get hurt, recognize, maybe the first thing is even just recognizing that actually in this relationship, my partner relationship with the person who's like so significant, um, I'm going to hurt that person and they're going to hurt me. And it doesn't mean that they don't care about me. And I think that's the hard thing. Sometimes when people get hurt in relationships, they end up interpreting that as this person doesn't care about me or doesn't love me or is angry with me or upset with me all the time. So that I just want to say, like, hurt is just a part of relationships, and part of our awareness is being able to recognize that. And then what do we do? What can we do? Okay, so there's somebody with a Q&A. Oh, does it apply if one person has severe Asperger's? So I would say love and getting hurt in relationships does apply, whether people have diagnoses of Asperger's or well, borderline, we hear a lot. Narcissistic personality disorder, we hear a lot. So we hear a lot of diagnoses along the way, and it is typically what a diagnosis is just looking at symptoms that are on the surface of how somebody presents and pulling them all together and then coming up with the diagnosis. But it doesn't go beyond the surface. So in relationships, relationships are much more than beyond the surface. We'll come back to questions later. What a great question. I'm sorry, I have to like go to this one. What do I do if my husband doesn't want to go to couples therapy and I think we can benefit from as a couple? That is such a great question. And what would be super cool is if your husband was listening, or maybe you send him the link to the recording and maybe he is willing to listen to it a little bit or listen to what I'm talking about. I think a lot of times partners, typically husbands, but I'm just going to say partners, don't want to go to couples counseling because they feel like they're going to be blamed. And that's a really, really big thing. And in what I'm going to be talking about is there's not blame in relationships. It's really about, like Aron mentioned, it's about patterns and cycles. And we're going to take a look at what happens with relationships and what goes wrong. And it's not about somebody doing something wrong. It's about like our life experiences, really. That's what it kind of comes down to, which we'll talk more about. And I think I heard you, I mean, I think I saw you say that your husband was listening. So I think that that's great. So I'm going to ask you guys again, if you are therapists, let's make sure we try to put that part of ourselves down and away, and we are present and we're just in our bodies and we're here as a human being who has significant relationships in their life. And whether you have a good marriage and looking for something more, or there's some tension or disruption in your marriage and you're looking for a path forward. Just try to be in that space, that emotional space, rather than so much in your headspace. So we're gonna watch a video about love.
I want to fall in love at 85, go on shuffleboard dates, and dance to hip-hop from 95. We'd rock matching tracksuits and rope gold chains. We'd look like Run DMC, but in their old age. We'd take aerobics classes and wear bifocal glasses and eat at IHOP and hold hands at Sunday masses. And when it comes to the bedroom, well, nothing much would happen in the bedroom because we're 85. But we would still be down to take a walk or take a drive or sit and talk or have a drink, watch the passersby, ask each other why and how and who and where and when, and then we'd laugh and cry again about the people we had been. I would touch her withered skin and comment on how thin it is to keep in something infinite. And she would smile, sweet and blush, and tell me that I think too much. She's right, I think too much. It's always been a problem. But then again, that's how I made my green like the goblin. When I was in my 20s, I was eating top ramen, counting up my pennies, saving up to go food shopping. But now I'm 85, and somehow I feel more alive. I turned my hearing aid up and bumped Jurassic 5. And when it comes to the bedroom, well, hopefully, every once in a while, she lets me knock her boots into the floral patterns of our bedpost, then hold her head close like death isn't chasing us, planning on erasing us and replacing us with better versions of us, reshaping us, remaking us, then recreating us with new identities so we can make new memories. Hush, little baby. Learn to walk and talk and think and lie and feel and fight and love and die and never get the answers why. She dips a joint of grass in wheatgrass and we get high. Her hair is silver as the moon in the Miami sky. We still pop pills, but it's not the Xanax anymore. Whenever we can't sleep, we listen to the ocean floor. She got a Sound of the Sea CD for me from the Brookstone store, and ever since I've been snoring like a really good metaphor for snoring. Sorry, I go blank sometimes. What? I'm 85. I'm not complaining. I'm just happy that I'm still alive. And happy that I have my better half by my side, Superfly. She doesn't look a day over 65. When I first saw her, I was totally in awe. She was classical, so I was like, yo, yo, ma. And that was all it took. A single look and I was shook. I fell for her like some loose shingles from our Spanish roof. And I'ma love her till she loses every last root and has to glue dentures to her gums to chew solid food. Ooh, now that's real love, dude. That's some push comes to shove love. Not when it's convenient, love. Hospital bed love. Feed her ice chips, love. Never leave the room, love. Sleeping in the chair, love. Pray to up above, love. Have to pull the plug, love. Miss her in my bones, love. Everything about her, love. Die within a month, love. Can't live without her, love. Love. The only reason that we are alive. And none of us should have to wait until we're 85.
I hope you guys allowed yourself to be present and take in the message there. Um, the only reason we're alive and we shouldn't have to wait till we're 85. How we want somebody to walk with us through life side by side, to experience joys and heartaches and sadnesses and fears together. When push comes to shove, love. Feed her ice chips, love. Never leave her side, love. This kind of love is what we are all longing for. It's in our body to have that kind of love, to be able to share our lives and our journey with somebody side by side, who's going to stand side by side with me and I with them. And we're going to go through this life together. No matter what we face, it's going to be together. Even when we get hurt, we're going to work through it together. Now, this was really focused on love, right? And here's the thing. What is love, right? They kept talking about love, which is such an important word. And this is what people want in relationships. It's the most important goal. We all crave this feeling of love and we crave to be loved. And yet, what is it? Is it some mystery? Is it this like mystery thing that's just supposed to magically happen when you get into a relationship? Is love about a friendship where we just kind of are like buddies? Is love a contract that we enter into, that we kind of like have an agreement? Maybe we negotiate some stuff. Maybe we have particular roles in our relationship that as a wife, I'm going to do ABC, and as a husband, I'm going to do XYZ, and that's part of our contract and our defined roles that we have. Or is love something different? Do we actually have a definition of love? The way love is portrayed in songs, movies, books, TV shows, it's all depicted as this like whoosh, rush of emotion or infatuation or endless passion. That kind of feels like not attainable, right? Like what, like that's, and it's not true. And when it is depicted that way in society, in some ways, we think that we're supposed to have that. And if we don't have that, then there's something wrong with our relationship. And that's not true. There's nothing wrong with our relationship if we don't have that book, song, movie kind of love that's out there that you kind of hear about. When we love, what is love? Love is really about being vulnerable. It's about taking vulnerable risks. And what I mean by vulnerable is I mean like opening your heart up and sharing your joy, your sadness, your fears, your hurts, your past hurts. Taking a risk and sharing that with your partner without any guarantee of what's going to happen. Because we don't really have guarantees, which is why when taking these risks is really vulnerable to open up our heart to somebody. But love is about opening our heart up to our partner and having them meet us there and be with us in that vulnerable space. So we are not alone. And when we can create this kind of partner love, it is very, very precious. It's sacred. It's something that we all crave that's wired into our bodies. As a human being, as a mammal, we are all longing to be loved in I'm going to say, a deeper emotional way. It's way past the surface of who does what tasks in the relationship. We need to think about a little bit about what did we learn? What messages did we receive from our society, our community, our parents? What messages did you receive about how you're supposed to be as a husband or a wife? What did they tell you? What did the marriage coaches tell you? Those are all messages that you internalized, right? And kind of walk into your relationship with those messages. Did they tell you to be independent? To not be overly needy? To make sure you do these tasks, provide meals for your family, have lots of children, be a good provider financially, be a good learner. Like, what did they really tell you? And maybe they didn't tell you actually the secret of love is all around vulnerability and emotion and connection. When we don't understand what's going on or wrong in our relationships, we label relationships as codependent. I'm sure some of you guys have heard this or maybe even labeled your spouse this along the way. Narcissistic, borderline on the spectrum, or controlling. When we don't understand what's happening and we look at symptoms or we look at the surface of somebody, we can plop them in these categories. And the only thing that does is hurt the love bond. The more we look at our spouse through the lens of a diagnosis, the more we hurt our marriage bond, our love bond. Because whether our partner is hearing from us that there's something wrong with them, they might be hearing it from the spouse. There's something wrong with you because you are narcissistic or you're borderline or you're on the spectrum. And when you hear from your spouse that there's something wrong with you, it doesn't feel good at all. It's actually pretty painful when this person, your partner, is supposed to love you, accept you, cherish you, appreciate you. Why, Debbie? Why do we have that expectation in marriage? You ask, and I shall answer and say, because that is in the cells of our body. That's not something that maybe anyone ever told you or was explicit about. In the cells of your body, we are wired for emotional connection and emotional safety. It starts from the day that we're born and it runs through our entire lifespan and it never goes away. So in the cells of your body, we have these expectations of what marriage is, and then we're taught different things from community or society or teachers. And so we take in the information that we're taught because we're supposed to, we respect those above us, right? And then we wonder what's going wrong. When we start labeling people, labeling is often about blame. It's about something is wrong in you, and I'm blaming you for our marital struggles, tension, miscommunication, fill in the blank. I'm going to blame you for it if I start labeling you. And all that does is make the tension or the conflict or the miscommunication worse. Each time that circles through in your relationship where there's something wrong with my partner, whether they have Asperger's or whether they're borderline Every time I think that or say that, I'm putting a strain on my marital bond. And again, in society, we all hear these words and people tell us these things. Like you could go talk to somebody and describe your spouse to them, and they'll say, "Oh, it sounds like your spouse is narcissistic," or "Oh, it sounds like you're in a relationship with someone who's borderline," or a professional, a therapist that you went to, maybe has diagnosed your spouse without even meeting them, or diagnosed you, and then they missed something really, really important, which is what's happening in your internal world. What happens on the surface is just the surface, and that's where all these diagnoses come from. We got to get past the diagnosis, past the surface, to really understand what's happening for somebody in their most important relationship. So, what is the definition of this love, and how are we supposed to create this love? Love is about attachment, it's about emotional bonding and presence. Emotional presence. If the person that I love is in distress, sad, lonely, scared, I got to learn to show up and be present for them in that space so they are not alone. We're all going to have emotional hurts and sadnesses and pain and fears and all that stuff. That's all part of life. We have feelings. We're human beings. We're mammals. Emotions drive us. So it's inevitable. So in our love relationship, we need to be able to feel the other person cares and is with us in that space. And attachment is about, again, from the day that we're born until the day that we die. There is a wired in longing to feel that bond with the most important person. And it starts with parents. Each and every one of us were born into this world as innocent, vulnerable, open, emotionally intuitive, little human beings. When we needed closeness or comfort, we would cry out. And we would give our parents a signal that we needed them. Sometimes they came close, maybe sometimes they didn't. All of that impacts us. The person who's sitting here today listening to me talk, all those experiences that you had from the very beginning has impacted who you are today and how you show up in your own relationship. It's all about experiencing. I want to show you guys another video here. Wow. I want you to just notice what you just witnessed. That baby was in distress, emotional distress, crying out, sending signals to the dad. I need comfort. I need comfort. Don't leave me alone in my crib. Don't try to put me down on my stomach and try to pat my back, which the father tried several times. And the baby's like, no, it doesn't work. And the only thing that soothed that baby was dad's emotional comfort and presence. In our couple relationship, like this is really amazing because what you saw there is you saw a baby in distress and the father coming in, not in distress, right? Not in distress. And through that physical contact, comfort that the father was providing, it regulated the baby's emotions. It took a distressed person and soothed them by being present and coming in and offering comfort. So seeing this little baby in distress, all of us could have compassion for that baby, right? And want to like be like, oh my God, just pick up the baby or just comfort that baby, right? And then when we get to be adults and we're in a marriage and our partner is crying out, maybe because they're acting narcissistic or they're acting like a borderline or they're acting like an Asperger's person or on the spectrum. We don't like that. We don't like that. And then we don't come close. We don't see the distress on the surface as a crying out, longing for connection and comfort, which makes sense. We are not supposed to see it, I just want to say. If your spouse is angry or frustrated or shutting down or distracted or constantly walking out of the room when you start talking to them, like we are going to interpret that in a negative way. We are not going to interpret that like, hey, wait, my spouse is in distress. Maybe I should go over there and comfort them. No, it doesn't work that way. But when we're babies, we all have the capability and the capacity to send clear emotional signals when we need comfort. And then what happens is, I just want to basically say, hey, life happens. And when life happens, we learn, unfortunately, often, and keep in mind that I've been a therapist for 30 years, and this is what I see day in and day out. So I'm going to say, we learn that people aren't going to be there for us, that we're going to have to figure it out on our own. And maybe you might be sitting there and saying, oh, my parents were there for me. And if you are, I say, then that is wonderful. And I have yet to meet a person who hasn't had emotional misses with their parents, because parents aren't perfect. And parents often aren't given the handbook about how to show up emotionally for your baby so they can feel secure. They don't have the handbook, just like you guys don't have the marriage handbook. It's not provided to us. So we learn how to protect ourselves. We learn that being vulnerable like this baby and crying out and sending a clear signal saying, I need help, I need comfort, I need you to come and soothe me. When that doesn't happen, I'm not going to put myself out there. I'm going to learn how to shut it down so I don't feel that need for another person. Or I might get more, I might get a little bigger and throw a little temper tantrum to get attention. And then I end up getting negative attention. And heck, that's better than nothing, but I'll still keep doing it. When what I really want is that soft connection, that loving connection. So the foundation of us as human beings is all about attachment theory. From cradle to grave. This is something that is wired into the cells of our body that we cannot remove. It's a part of our humanness and our mammalian brain. It's part of our survival mechanism to connect, to emotionally bond with others. And the only way we emotionally bond is through experiences. Isolation for us, for mammals, is deadly. It's traumatizing. It goes against the cells of our body. There was a study once where they took monkeys and they put baby monkeys in a living area with the mom and had, all the, food and comfort and da da da. And then they took baby monkeys and they put them in the living area with a wired monkey. So no real mammalian contact, wired. They had all the food, all the supplies that they needed, all the play, all the same stuff. The only thing that was different was the warm-blooded monkey mommy in this one, and then a wired monkey mommy in this one. The monkeys over here died. They wouldn't eat. They wouldn't play. Because that wired in longing to be emotionally connected and bonded with the most important person, which starts as parents and ends with partners, was not there. Was not there. It's really, really important that we begin to see the significance and importance of attachment. If we miss that significance, we will miss what's happening for people, what is below the surface. We'll just be hanging out on the surface and seeing what's going on, but not really recognizing, getting to the heart of the matter, which is in my marriage, I desperately want to feel appreciated, loved, cared for, cherished, accepted, warts and all. That's what I'm longing for. And when I don't have it, because nobody's ever showed it to me, it's just something in my body that I feel. I don't even know what it is. Some people, like, they don't even know what it feels like to have somebody emotionally come alongside them and say, "Hey, I can be here with you. You look really sad." Tell me what's happening. Providing that safe, soft place. When we've never had it, it doesn't take away the wired in longing, and that is significant. It just means we need to learn something new because we've never had it. So we either land in relationships based on our experience, we can have a secure connection, which is about emotional responsiveness and engagement and accessibility. So what a secure connection is, and love, is about a secure emotional bond with the person that you're sharing your life with, plus touch in our partner relationship. This is where I can open my heart to you. You can open your heart to me. I can respond to you when you send me a clear signal that you're sad or lonely or scared or overwhelmed. I can respond to you with care and openness. And I'm emotionally engaged in our relationship, not checked out. Not just doing task after task after task after task because this is what I learned or this is what I saw growing up. So I'm just going to keep doing my tasks. Or I'm going to keep working harder and harder and harder and harder and harder because that's what I saw growing up and that's what I think I'm supposed to do. When we're doing a bunch of tasks and we're really, really busy and distracted, we are not creating secure emotional connection in our marriage. We're just doing a lot of tasks. When we have insecure connection, this is where we don't have the emotional accessibility. It's not there because we learn something different. We witness something different. So we do what we learned or how we were treated. We just do that same thing. There's not a responsiveness in the relationship, emotional responsiveness to self or to other, because emotions, there is no such thing as emotions. It was more about do, learn, study, observe, follow the rules. When we don't have this emotional connection, this emotional accessibility, responsiveness, and engagement, we feel insecurely connected to our partner, which is going to bring up anxiety or avoidance, or a combination of anxiety and avoidance. That's what it does. So if you imagine little Sally goes to the park with mom, and mom is the most important person to little Sally, and little Sally is on the monkey bars, and little Sally falls off the monkey bars, and she screams out and she says, Mom, it's your fault that I fell. You weren't watching me. Mom's gonna be like, what? Right? It like instantaneously, you have a reaction in your body to that. Can't even stop that reaction. It's just you literally got your kid just basically blamed you for not watching and basically told you that you're a bad parent. And because your parenting is so important to you and you want to be a great parent, that has an emotional impact right then and there. And that will impact what you do next. So, another scene, little Sally 2 goes to the park with mom. And little Sally 2 falls off the monkey bars, gets really hurt. All little Sally 2 wants is mom to come and comfort. But instead, little Sally goes over to the swings instead and starts swinging on the swings alone. So mom has no idea that something's going on. Not a clear signal. So we have the little Sally who falls and then blames and attacks, when what that little Sally wants is emotional comfort from mom. We have number 2, little Sally, who falls and hurts and wants mom to come and comfort, but is too afraid to ask, so goes somewhere else. And then we have little Sally number 3. Mom is the most important person to her. She feels it. Mom shows up emotionally for little Sally 3. Little Sally 3 falls off the monkey bars and hurts herself and says, Mom, I fell, I hurt myself. Can you come and help me? Mom says, well, of course. And mom walks over and comforts little Sally. Same thing in our adult relationship. What signal are we sending our spouse about our emotional distress? Connection is about living, and disconnection is all about suffering. When we are disconnected from the person who matters most to us, we will suffer. Sometimes we will suffer in silence, and sometimes we will suffer aloud, and we will let the world know because we will be angry or frustrated or blaming others for our situation. But we will suffer when we are disconnected from the person who matters most, which is our spouse. When we get into a partner relationship, you are each other's person. It is wired into the cells of your body. And when we are securely connected to that person, which is about emotional bonding and engagement, we can feel true joy, happiness, success, and good health. Secure connection. There's 30 years of research behind attachment theory and emotional bonding and EFT, emotionally focused therapy, which is the model that we use. 30 years of research saying, this is it. This is what matters. And when we feel insecure and we have disconnection, we are lonely. We are stressed. We get overwhelmed. There's a problem with the kids. They're troubled. They're difficult. And we also can have health problems. In 2023, which was 2 years ago, May 2023, the Surgeon General came out with a warning about loneliness. And he said that loneliness is as deadly as smoking 15 cigarettes a day or obesity. Wow, is what I say to that, right? Because in our society, we've finally figured out that smoking is dangerous and it's all over the place and everybody knows that. And not, I mean, if I think about how many people smoked, 40 years ago compared to how many people I see smoking today, it's way less because people actually believe it, right? That cigarettes kill. And how much is out there on obesity and how deadly it is and how it causes diabetes and blah blah blah. Well, loneliness, which and what he's talking about, we are in an epidemic of loneliness and isolation in our country. And what he means by loneliness is he means the lack of emotional depth in our important relationships. We don't have the depth there. So loneliness is associated with a greater risk of cardiovascular disease, dementia, stroke, depression, anxiety. And our young people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, which are young people, are reporting high rates of loneliness. That's pretty significant. And it came out in May 2023. And I don't know if any of you have heard about it or if you read about it, but it came out. It was really, for me, it was really powerful. I was like, yes, the Surgeon General is putting something out there on the thing that matters most. Everybody's going to read it and we're going to get word out. And it's just kind of petered out. And it was like as if it never even happened, which is really sad to me because it is so, so important. So, how do we get this deeper connection? And I mentioned the word vulnerability, right? Vulnerability is such an important thing for us to even be able to define. So, Brené Brown does a great job describing what vulnerability is. So, I want you guys to listen to this video.
I think the biggest myth about vulnerability is that it's weakness. I think a lot of people were raised to believe that. It was modeled, I think, certainly in our culture. We see that a lot, that to be vulnerable, to be open, to be exposed is to be weak. And the truth is, what I found in my research is that vulnerability is not weakness. In fact, I would argue that it's our greatest measure of courage. When we went out and asked people, what is vulnerability? We heard things like, vulnerability is the first date after my divorce. Vulnerability is starting my own company. Vulnerability is taking responsibility for something that went wrong at work. Vulnerability is sitting with my wife who has stage 3 breast cancer and making plans for our young kids. Vulnerability is taking my business public. The definition I use in my work of vulnerability is simply uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. Vulnerability is about the willingness to show up and to be seen even when there are no guarantees. And it's interesting to me, one of the things that I thought was really interesting, I gave a talk, it's probably a couple years now, and it was being translated by people doing American Sign Language. And they came up before the talk started and they said, are there any words that you're going to use a lot in your talk that we should know about that or might be different? And I said, well, I use the word vulnerability a lot. And there were two of them, and they kind of looked at each other and they said, oh, we do this for vulnerability. And I said, what does that mean? They said, it means weak in the knees. And I'm like, wow, that's not how I talk about vulnerability. And she said, well, there's only one other sign for vulnerability. And I said, what is it? And she said, and I said, oh, that's what I'm talking about. And so to me, vulnerability is our most accurate measure of courage. It's pretty powerful when I have 13,000 pieces of data collected over 12 years that I cannot find a single incident or story of courage that was not completely underpinned by vulnerability. I think the problem arises that there's so many little paradoxes with vulnerability, and one of them is that vulnerability is courage in you, but weakness in me. When I meet you, it's the first thing I look for in you, but it's the last thing I want to show you in me. And so I think to really put ourselves out there, knowing that if we do that enough, we're going to fail, I just don't think it gets more courageous than that.
So hopefully that explanation helped you understand the word of vulnerability, what we mean when we're referring to that. That's really about opening your heart up and sharing your deeper feelings with somebody, taking a risk and opening up. And when we see others do it, she's so accurate that we see that they're brave and that they're courageous and they let themselves be seen in their sadness. or fear or shame. And we're like, wow, and it's touching. And for me to do it, it's weakness. If I open up my heart and I let people see that I'm sad or that I suffer or that I feel alone, they're going to think that I'm weak because I should have it together. And I should be able to be independent and I should be able to be strong and I should be able to not need anybody. Well, I'm sorry, folks. We do need others. And we need others to be with us emotionally. And it's wired into our system as human beings. That's just how it is. So while the video was playing, I just happened to peek at see if there was questions in the chat box. And I would just want to comment on a few of them, and then I'll keep going. But I feel like it was such a great question. When do you know as a couple you need help or you're still adjusting and over time you'll be better? One thing that I'm going to say is time doesn't create healing in relationship. And yes, there is an adjustment period in relationships for sure. And most people who come to me or come to one of my workshops that I do for couples are like, oh my God, I wish I had this 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 6 months ago. Like, no one ever comes and is like, oh, I'm glad I got this information today. So, why not just have somebody help you along the way before it gets really intense, before the hurt gets deeper? Because if we've never learned how to be vulnerable in relationships and how to take risks because we grew up in an environment where emotion was not okay, or the only emotion we saw was maybe frustration, all that's going to impact. And we just sometimes need a little help navigating that in our relationship. And it's such an important relationship, so why not? The diagnoses that I was talking about before, it's again, I'm going to say again, people look at symptoms on the outside and they come up with a diagnosis. So, and diagnosis is supposed to be an explanation. And it's supposed to offer an explanation, and it creates hopelessness in relationships 9 times out of 10. And those symptoms were developed because of attachment disruptions or issues or hurts in that person's growing up life, which is why they are the way they are today. And that's to say, like, kind of like, it's like, oh, so they're diagnosed with a personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, so then there's no hope for them. As an EFT therapist, I don't believe that. I believe that the personality disorder was a reaction, was developed because of attachment distress in the parent-child relationship. So it becomes like a protection, unconscious. So it's all part of the work that we do. Okay. I'll come back to questions. I just saw that. I was thinking about the person who were just adjusting, and I really wanted to say, that's so great that you're adjusting, and it's a great time for you to get this information with your spouse. Why wait? So when we are missing the depth of connection or the shared vulnerability with our spouse, what happens? We might feel a little depressed. We might feel a little sad. We might feel a little lonely, or a lot lonely, or a lot sad. Because this is not how it was supposed to be. That's in the cells of our body, guys. That's what I really want you to hear. Like, it's not a conscious thought that you have that, oh, my marriage is supposed to be loving and I'm supposed to feel this like warmth and care. Like, it's not here. It's here. The cells of our body say, you're the most important person to me. And because we are married, I'm therefore supposed to feel emotionally safe with you and connected to you. and feel like appreciated by you and cherished and all that. It's in the cells of our body because we're married. It's the most important relationship. Parents and then partners. It's just how life works. And it's wired into our body. Families suffer when we struggle in our marriage. It has a direct impact on the family because the marriage is actually the foundation of the family. So if you were to build a house, your foundation needs to be really strong and steady, right? So that's what I feel like marriage, the foundation, when we think about a strong foundation, is one about emotional closeness, connection, accessibility, responsiveness, shared in that relationship that builds a strong foundation for the couple, that I can trust that you're going to be there for me and you can trust that I'm going to be there for you. When life gets hard, we're going to lean into each other and we're going to be there, and I'm going to trust that you're not going to drop me and I'm not going to drop you. That's a strong foundation. Doesn't mean that there's not going to be issues along the way and bumps in the road. Of course, there's going to be. That's just part of life. But typically, when we're not taught to nurture this relationship through vulnerability and risk taking and learn a new language of emotional vulnerability and responsiveness, it's like a new language when you've never had it. Then we have our foundation in our marriage has a lot of pockets of holes in it, and we start having kids. And then the foundation has all these holes and cracks along the way, and then we have kids. How it makes it harder to build the house without parts of it falling down and needing to be rebuilt, which is the family. So that the marriage is such a significant piece of the family. And I know family is so important. Anxiety. Anybody feel a little anxious when they feel disconnected from their spouse? Or you have any kind of signal that maybe your spouse doesn't like you, let alone love. What if they don't like you? Or they don't care because they're out working all hours or they're out studying and they're never home? Most people don't fill in the blank that says, oh, my spouse is out all the time, either working or studying, because they love me so much and because I'm their world. Most people will not do that. Most people will be like, wow, my spouse stays away from me all the time. And again, it's not really a conscious thought. It's more happening internally. And sometimes this is happening outside of our conscious awareness, that we start to feel the sadness because the way we make sense out of our spouse being gone all the time is that they don't really like spending time with us. Or a spouse who's critical and points out flaws. You didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do this. What's wrong with you? How come you didn't do this? I asked you to do this and you didn't do this. Like, why didn't you do this? When you're hearing that all day long, we usually don't walk away saying, oh, my spouse is just giving me feedback to help me be a better person because they love me so much. Oh no. We usually internalize that as, oh my gosh, I can't do anything right here. Nothing I ever do is going to be good enough. I'm not good enough. Because I over and over and over get the message from my spouse that I'm falling short. And my spouse is so important to me. So this is how it happens. And it starts with just innocent misses because we aren't taught about emotional vulnerability and responsiveness. We don't have those experiences. So without that, we've learned how to turn off a part of ourselves in some way, protect ourselves from those painful emotions. And when we don't have this connection, we could just feel empty inside, like there's something missing. Something is missing. Emotions are the driver of everything, which maybe some of you are like, oh my God, she's crazy. That's not true. It is. Strong emotion will override your intellect and your rational thinking any moment. Strong emotion will always override your intellect, cognitive, rational thinking when it's strong, which is why you can't look at a couple who's in distress and say, schedule date night, um, say, oh, it's nice to see you, greet each other when you come home. Like those are behavioral interventions that don't work when you feel alone and isolated or not enough. It doesn't work. The emotion will influence how we perceive our partner, how we perceive ourselves, how we look at the world. It colors our world. Thank God we have emotions because otherwise we would be like robotic and it would be like really terrible. We actually need that to have a colorful world and experiences. So emotions are good, even though maybe sometimes they're hard to feel. It's hard to feel sad. It's hard to feel lonely. It's hard to feel shame. Nobody wants to feel that. And yet we carry it around because we're human and because we get hurt in relationships. I just saw another comment in the chat box. And my heart goes out to you. I tried EFT with 2 different therapists, but it didn't work out for me because the therapist was not attuned to me and I got triggered. So I kept butting heads with the therapist. Could it still work for me? Yes, because you even actually know what went wrong, which is beautiful, right? You didn't feel that the therapist got you and got your struggle and got your pain. Maybe how you protect yourself in your relationship. They didn't really get it. So you just need to find a therapist who gets you, who can connect to you. So, but that's sad to me. And I know that that happens. I just want to say to those of you out there who maybe have tried and it hasn't worked, don't give up because people have different levels of training and some people are pure EFT and some people dabble in EFT and call themselves EFT therapists. And some people know a lot about it and use a little bit of it. Like, so it's everyone's all a little different. So I just want to say, try again. Interview therapists. I always feel like, oh, like if they don't come highly recommended, like, oh my God, you have to go see this person because they're the best person in the world, right? If you don't get that from somebody where they're recommending somebody because they went to that person, then ask the therapist for a call. See if you can talk to them. You should get a feeling, or you go to the first session and do you feel that you connect with this therapist? Do you feel like they got you? You should. And if you go to an EFT therapist as a couple, your first session, both of you should end up leaving feeling like that therapist really got me. Regardless of what you've talked about, that's how you should feel. And that's what because of what we believe in when we're pure EFT therapists, we can really understand each person's distress, even though the perceptions and experiences are different. It's because we believe in attachment theory. Anyway, okay, so let me go back to emotions and perceptions. I'm going to show you a quick video here. I really appreciate the questions you guys are putting in the chat box. They're great. Or the Q&A, sorry. So here we go. Let's just listen to this about perceptions.
All right, I'm gonna play a recording of people chanting, "That is embarrassing," 4 times. After the 4th time, write down what you hear.
That is embarrassing. That is embarrassing. That is embarrassing. That is embarrassing.
Interesting. Almost everyone here heard, "That is embarrassing." Okay, listen again and watch the screen. And when I cue you, write down what you hear.
That is embarrassing. 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 That is embarrassing.
It's freaky, isn't it? You heard the same thing every single time. Our eyes and ears take in electrical signals which our brains interpret based on our expectations. We don't see reality. we see our reality.
Hmm. I have to say, every time I hear that, watch that, see that, the only thing I ever hear is that is embarrassing. That's the first thing that he says. And every time he plays that, and every time I watch it, just right now, I was sitting here and he was putting all the other ones up there, and I can read them and I can kind of get how they sound similar. But the loud one in my head is that is embarrassing. So I don't know what happened for you guys, but it just shows how, like, how strong our perception is. And it's not about what's real or not real. It's about our experience and our perception. And in a couple relationship, people have different experiences and different perceptions. It's not going to be the same. And we need to honor people for their perception and experience. So, how do we help couples build a strong foundation? We help couples build that strong foundation by offering EFT, by getting word out, by doing this webinar to try to get word out to people that it's actually quite normal in relationship to have bumps in the road. And it's quite normal to not know that actually the key to successful relationships is about taking emotional risks and being responsive emotionally to your partner when they do. And that we step on each other's toes and sometimes we get hurt. The thing in important relationships, the issue is when we get hurt, our body starts to code that other person as somebody who's going to hurt us again and again and again. So when our body starts to code our partner as someone who's dangerous and is going to hurt us, we put up protective walls. We're not going to take vulnerable risk. And that's what gets us to be more emotionally disconnected from our partner. And then that causes more tension or emptiness, but we don't talk about it because it's too dangerous to talk about because we've been hurt. That's the loop that happens in relationships. Okay, so we're going to take some questions and comments. There's contact information for me. And I also put the summary of the research on EFT because I do think that that link is an important link because, some of us feel like, hey, if it's research, it matters. And I feel like that does matter. And Sue Johnson, the originator, spent years and years and years researching attachment theory and researching the success of EFT and how it works and why it works and what it works with. And so there's 30 years of research supporting everything that I shared tonight. So there's a question in the chat in the Q&A. According to your answer for the first question, then there will never be a case not to go to therapy because has there ever been a couple who just got along from day one? So I'm not really sure what is meant by this question. What I will say is, remember I said like I've been a couples therapist for 30 years, so I don't really see couples who get along from day one. They don't show up in my office. So perception, my perception is that couples need help because we as a society do a terrible job when it comes to emotional sharing, vulnerability. We are literally taught to be strong and independent and to do your tasks. And we are not taught that vulnerability is the thing that is at the foundation of love relationships. And this is how we create our bonds. I'm going to stop my share. So if we could do better at that and getting word out, wouldn't that be amazing if we could do that? Another question that I hear is, in your opinion, such a thing as too much longing or being too needy, thinking of a baby, they can turn into a toddler and still expect you to sleep with them, or a partner that always wants a response. I don't think there's such a thing as being too needy. I think the more we don't get responses, the more needy we become. And that kind of needy is like a clingy, controlly, like demanding needy versus a longing. A longing is something soft. A longing is a clear signal when we reach out and we say, hey, I fell off the monkey bars and I'm hurting. Can you come and be with me? That's a longing, sending a clear signal and having that other person get the clear signal and then be able to respond to us. Mm, let's see. I'm in EFT therapy with my spouse for about 3 years now. We're really in a bad place still. How should I move forward? And yes, he's an extremely highly recommended therapist. So I would say, as crazy as it sounds, and we're really breaking the rules here, is to go to one of the Hold Me Tight workshops. And Aaron's going to talk about that. But the Hold Me Tight workshops is a 2-day experience. I have one coming up online that is for everybody. So for any of you who would join, there may be one or two other people with that might be Jewish. But it's just like open to everybody. And it's a 2-day immersion into the experience of EFT. So breakthroughs are happen all the time, emotional breakthroughs for couples because you have a 2-day immersion, which is very, very different from an hour of week therapy. So highly, highly, highly recommend. Your marriage is so important. And you're saying you're in a bad place. Come to the workshop. Give it a try before you like give up, right? It's like, yeah, I know like people want to, be anonymous, which is, I totally get that. And I also want to say one of the things that is the most special thing about the workshops is that couples report all the time is it feels so good to not be alone and really see that other couples experience the same stuff that we're experiencing. And that in itself can have a bit of healing.
Just want to add on that note, when it comes to these Hold Me Tight workshops, I work a lot with Hasidic or Orthodox couples, and I sometimes have recommended these Hold Me Tight workshops for couples. And most of the time, the initial reaction is like, no way, I'm not doing a workshop with other couples there. And I had to do some pushing and convincing for the couple's favor, and kind of like explain to them what their experience is going to be there and how you leave there and the experience is so much like you feel normal. You feel like you can relate to everyone there, like even the presenters, like we're all in the same boat. We all share our same human struggles and challenges on the inside. We all need the same thing, and it just feels so validating and belonging, and it's really healing. I just had 2 months ago, 3 of my couples that I recommended to this Hold Me Tight workshop. I was there, and I cannot even explain to you guys the transformation, the experience. And I'm working with these couples for a while, and we've been doing good work. Just like that experience of 2 days, like really goes a long way. It's a lot more than going for therapy 1 hour a week and then going back to regular life for another week and coming back a week later. And it's the group setting also has a huge impact.
Positive impact.
A very positive impact. Yes, thanks for clarifying.
Yeah.
And I cannot even explain I've never had a couple feel like why did you push me into this?
Yeah.
I
Or
was
which I didn't come. That's never
like,
happened.
yeah, I have couples, like every time couples leave there, they're like always hesitant before, but afterwards they're like, I'm gonna tell more people to sign up. This is great. This is not normal. Like, why do people not know about this? This is awesome. Like, everyone needs to do this. And maybe one day we'll get there. But
That's the mission, though. That's why we're doing this. I just want to say the mission is to get word out so we can. I mean, I wish that Aaron and I could win the lottery and we could offer free homey tight workshops every week, and everybody could just cycle through the workshop, like, for 6 months of their relationship to get the handbook, and then, maybe 10 years later, come back to just nurture your relationship, and then I just wish that that was part of our world and it was so valued because honestly, at the end of the day, guys, what really matters is your relationships, your most significant relationships. At the end of the day, when you are on your deathbed, what's going to matter is the emotional connection and bonding you had with the people who matter most. So, very, very important.
that
I want
so
to
I wanted to say that I'm working on it. I'm buying the lottery every week, so we might
good.
be able to do that. We'll split
I
the
love it.
profits, and we'll
Love
do the free webinar.
it.
The not the hold me tights.
Mhm. So I want to come back to some of the questions because I know some people put them in earlier and I missed the earlier ones. The video was so powerful. I'm assuming this is Love at 85. I got very emotional because I feel like the pain I'm going through in my relationship is so profound that I think about leaving all the time and maybe staying for the kids until they get older. I just don't know what to do. I'm not trying to blame anyone, just be aware of what I can handle and would appreciate any advice on this. Thank you so much. Well, first, I want to say, thank you for sharing, and that touches my heart very deeply, and the amount of pain that you're in every day. And it makes a lot of sense that you would think about leaving because the pain that you're in, it's like there needs to be there needs to be a way to figure out how to stop it. And sometimes leaving is the only way we can think to stop it. And um, I would see if there's any way that you can get a therapist, find an EFT therapist, see if they would reach out to your husband and talk to your husband. Because again, reason why husbands typically don't want to go to therapy is they're afraid they're going to be blamed for everything. And EFT does not pathologize people. We see things through an attachment lens, and there's attachment distress in our relationships. And how we cope with that is it's just a coping skill for attachment distress. And yes, it hurts our partners and it hurts us, and that's all the work that we're doing. Um, could EFT work even if there's childhood trauma? Yes, of course, because childhood trauma is connected to attachment, right? So EFT is a model about healing. That's really what it is. It's about healing broken bonds, if you will, broken attachment bonds, and having new experiences so we can have new experiences so we can trust again, or so we can not be as scared and so we can lean in into our relationship. So um, are you saying that if you're feeling your partner is controlling, what is really happening is your partner is longing for connection? Yes, in an indirect way. What I'm saying is each and every one of us have longings inside. Your partner who's controlling might be terrified that they're going to lose you because messages that your partner internalized when they were growing up could be something that they don't deserve anyone to love them or be there for them or care for them. So what we learn to do is we get scared that people are going to leave us. And I know this is like way like advanced and you might be thinking I'm crazy right now, but all the work that all my experience tells me is things do tend to funnel down into like how we feel about ourselves. And when we're afraid of losing our partner, we do some crazy things like we can be controlling. Can you repair the attachment to child that didn't get it as an infant? Yes, and if we couldn't do it, then our world would be cloudy and bleak and really sad. Oh, thank you so much. For a huge fan of Hold Me Tight seminar. We did it just 3 months after we got married. Is the best thing we've done.
Good for you. Good for you for doing it 3 months after you got married.
Yeah, love
A
it.
lot of people are jealous.
That's right. When you get in early, it happens all the time. We have like a young couple, and then we have a couple that's been married 30 years. I'm like, dang, I wish I would have come when I was your guys' age. Okay. So you both need to be invested. So what if only one sees the other's emotions? I mean, that's for your therapist to like help you with. both of you, both people are invested in having a successful marriage. I do believe that we all want to be happy in our marriage. Right. So it's a matter of like, can you find the right fit of a therapist to help hold you both so you can work through some of the pain that you've experienced in this relationship? My husband feels that he doesn't want to go to therapy because he feels uncomfortable to share his stuff with a therapist. I mean, I just want to say yes, of course, especially if there's not been a lot of sharing of his stuff and getting emotional support, and he's been dealing with that on his own, and that's have been a coping skill, it makes sense that he would be uncomfortable sharing with others because he's never really had probably somebody show that they care. Like this is important and create enough safety for him to be willing to take those risks. So, I mean, he just needs somebody to like, I would say, go slow with him and create safety for him. And, maybe shift gears. Maybe you and your husband come to hold me tight instead of therapy. And it's just think of it as a marriage enrichment, 2 days to enrich your marriage. And sometimes the safety that can happen there could be really, really, could then open the door for therapy also. That's another thing. Um, ASD spouse, ASD, help me, Asperger, was that like a spectrum disorder?
Autism spectrum disorder.
Thank you. That's what I thought. I just wanted to say. Um, I would say that, for the autistic spouse or on the spectrum, that my experience is people are capable of change and showing love and, you know, learning our love language is like on the surface. And what we really need to get to is the deeper feelings inside. Like my husband could tell me, affirm me every day. If it doesn't feel like it's coming from his heart and it's not deeper and we don't have shared emotional experience around it, it's just going to be words. So,
Just want to add on that part. Like, oftentimes people develop a way of showing up in the world and in relationships in a very technical, non-emotional way that might very well present itself as autism or something like that. And very often, this is just their insecurity, what Debbie spoke about, like how when we don't get what we need as a child, we develop different ways of coping, and sometimes that's the work in therapy to help you or your spouse get back in touch with that emotional part inside that was never met. So yeah.
yeah. Um, What if afraid to share in session to not hurt your spouse? First, let me just say that's really sweet, right? Of course, we don't want to hurt our spouses. I just want to say that as well. And if you have a good therapist, they're going to navigate you guys through the conversation or through the work that and hold you guys. So if there is hurt, it's not like that's not the walk away. I went to therapy and my spouse hurt me. That's not the walk away. Typically, if we're sharing vulnerably from our heart and we're sharing about sadness or fear or shame, and we're sharing about ourselves, it draws our partner close to us. If we're sharing about something that our partner is doing, it usually pushes the other person away. If someone married goes to therapy by themselves, can that improve the marriage? I mean, yeah, I think that when you're talking about relationships, my preference is if I'm going to work on a relationship, I'd want to have both people there. Um, and again, I strongly feel that people are afraid to come to therapy, especially marital therapy, because they're afraid to be blamed, or they're afraid of the stigma, or there's something wrong with them. And I'm just like, pretty much everybody needs like a little bit of relational therapy. That's like because we teach the wrong things in our society. So, um, yes, you can go by yourself, and it's better if you can go with your partner and you find a good therapist. If you come from a family that's not as emotional, some say mushy. My spouse is from a very emotional family, crying. Aw. No, I wouldn't say the imbalance is too much here. I would say it's different experiences. Not about it being too much. Like it's about there has to be room for emotion in a relationship, and that is the thing that bonds couples together. So, I would say it's not about fixing, it's about finding like balance or connection in your relationship with each other. What if part of the struggle is in the area of sex and intimacy? Um, I would say that if you're having struggles in the area of sex and intimacy, that is having an emotional impact on you both. And sex and intimacy is something that couples therapists are going to help you with, and EFT therapists, because like they're interconnected, right? If you're having struggles, you create meaning to that, right? About how your partner feels about you. When is it too late? I mean, I would say it's you could when it's whenever you decide that it's too late, you can make that decision on your own. And I would say when you've exhausted all your options. So if you've tried therapy, you've tried to get to a different therapist, if the one that was you were with is not working, so you tried someone else or whatever, and you tried a couples workshop, the Hold Me Tight workshop. I feel like before anybody calls it quits, they should at minimum do that. What if my spouse can't handle my emotions? There's good reason based on your spouse's experience, why they can't handle their emotions. And part of the work in therapy is going to be to try to discover that and to free up whatever those good reasons are, whatever your spouse has learned about emotions that can't handle. Um, Once we kind of explore that and work with that, it opens up the door that emotions can be experienced as something different than something that's scary. Often, when people can't handle emotions, it's because emotions are too scary or they don't know what to do with them because they've never seen them or they've never had them because they've deactivated them or their family poo-pooed emotions or whatever. So, hopefully, that helps a little bit. No more questions. Oh, there's one. What if we are very different? Compatibility is not about attachment and emotional bonding and connection. You can be extremely different from your spouse and still learn and have experiences of secure bonding, even with all of your differences. Compatibility and secure attachment and emotional connection and bonding are don't coincide. So, great questions, guys. Appreciate them.
Wow. Thank you everyone for sending in questions. Oh, there's another one.
Love is when difference makes no difference.
Oh,
Love that.
thanks. Yes.
That's great. Great comment. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. And if anyone wants to quickly put in a question, there's the option on the bottom. It says Q&A with a question mark thing. You click on that, you can type in it, you can send it anonymously.
Mhm.
So,
I know, I love that. I love that all the anonymous questions and
yes,
you
you
know.
can send it anonymously. And for those of you who are asking about our workshops, everyone that registered is gonna get a follow-up email, and I will also try to get you all a copy of the recording of this tonight's event. Feel free to share it with anyone. Before we finish, I also want to post a little 6-question poll. If you guys don't mind, it's going to pop up on your screen. If you can just um, answer the questions as best as you can. Um, and and so we can learn from that how to better help the community at large. And Debbie, there's another question.
Oh, there is. I didn't say sorry. Do you have to be a purist of an EFT therapist to be good at it? I don't know. That's an interesting question. Um, I don't think you have to be a purist of an EFT therapist to be a good therapist. I think if you want to be a really good EFT therapist, I think the model is something that you want to implement and learn and not deviate from. At what stage should I join the workshop? Any stage. And I seriously mean that. But whether you're married the 3 months or 30 years, you should come.
So you guys should see the poll on your screen. If you can, in the meantime, just answer those few questions. Takes a second, so we can see what we can help the community with.
Yeah. How do you handle a spouse who is very critical on small details, looks, or nature? I don't know. I'm assuming that you might be married to somebody who's that way, or maybe you're a therapist. I'm not really sure. But people are critical as a form of protection, and we want to be able to discover that through the work that we're doing in therapy. Like, how did this protection come about? Right? When you're critical of everything, there's a reason that you're doing that. So part of the work is discovering what that is and how you got to be protecting yourself. What if my wife keeps on running out from therapy? I don't know. I would say maybe your wife is not feeling safe with the therapist. I'm not really sure. Maybe it's going too fast or too deep and things need to slow down. Wish I could have a better answer for that.
Okay, so the poll, thanks to you, for those of you who are answering the questions. I'll leave the poll on for another half a minute, and then we'll end the poll. Debbie, there is another question.
Yeah, I see. How do you handle a very cold family with no emotions? So, it's a process. I just want to say it's a process of how to handle that. And people do not have no emotions. They shut them down because it's unsafe to have them. Because if they're living, breathing mammal, they do have emotions. All of them. It's just cold and shut down became a coping skill. So we need to figure out like that coping skill and how that got to be and know and like create enough safety for that person to get back in touch with the feelings that they like kind of turned off. How should I go about when my marriage started with a trauma and the other spouse has childhood and is giving? I mean, I think these are great questions and these are stuff to work out in therapy. We got to get people to therapy to work through some of this stuff. And, Aron and I are both EFT therapists, and that's the model that we believe in, and that's the model that we work, and we can totally work through childhood trauma, and how things are playing out in the current relationship. That's kind of what we do from an emotional perspective and an attachment perspective.
Oh, wow, thank you. I can share the results of the poll with you guys so that you guys can just have a look what others answered. You can look at it, and when you're done, you can close it. And some of the answers here are really helpful for us. We're trying to help create change in the community, and a lot of these things will help guide us. So thank you so much. And once again, thank you so much for everyone who is here tonight, and everyone who signed up will be getting a follow-up email with information about the Hold Me Tight workshops. I do want to mention, you'll see it in the email, that there is an early bird for the in-person Hold Me Tight workshop. For the first five
couples.
Yes, the first 5 couples who sign up will get basically a 33% almost probably something like 25 to 30% discount. I don't remember exactly, but a pretty big discount if you sign up, the first 5 couples that sign up. And it is also capped at a certain number of couples because we don't want it to be a very big group because then it makes it harder to cover everything in 2 days with a lot of couples. So sign up as soon as you can. Um, Whether you can make the one in person or you want to do the one online. Um, and if anyone has any questions after tonight's event, feel free to email us anytime at Revive. We'll try to help you as best as possible. And thanks again, Debbie, for joining us tonight and doing this amazing presentation. I can never get enough of, Debbie's presentations. As many times as I've heard you, Debbie, and it's been many times, a lot of trainings, a lot of stuff, and it never gets old. So I'm really grateful for having met you, Debbie, and for the amount of change and the impact that you've had on so many people. On behalf of all the people out there in the community, on behalf of so many of my clients and so many other people, they really are really grateful for you, Debbie, for being such an like a ray of hope or a beacon of hope.
Yeah.
So
That's,
thank you so much.
that's really sweet, and I love it. I mean, that's if I could be a beacon of hope for couples, then that is amazing. Because I do believe that we can heal. We are hurt in relationships, and it stinks, and we can heal. All of us have the capability of healing.
Yep.
Sometimes we just need the guidance. We need the guidance.
And hear it from you can hear it from me. I'm a student from Debbie, and been trained. I've been training with Debbie for a long time, pretty long time. It's probably like 6 years now. I've done a lot of trainings with Debbie and supervision. And my work with my couples, it shows. It really shows, and my couples are so grateful for all of this. And a lot of my couples came in after a very long time struggling. A lot of them even been to different therapists, and some of them even to well-known and well-respected therapists that are considered to be quote unquote top of the line, and still felt very hopeless. And thank God they did feel they did have a huge. Some of them had a big breakthroughs and a lot of things that they never thought were possible that happened through our work together in this work that we do. And we, as a Orthodox Jewish community, we know how important marriage is. We know how important relationships is. We all know when it comes to the Talmud says that God basically tells us to erase his name just to help couples connect and get back to each other. That's how important relationships are in our culture, in our religion. And right from the start of the Torah, right in the beginning, when God created the world and he created man, first thing is God saw that man cannot be alone, and God created someone to be with him. So all these things aren't some made up stuff. These are all things that have been there since the world was created.
Yeah,
And
it's in our biology. That's what you're saying. Like it's in it's in the cells of our body. It's biological.
it's
We're not
biological.
making it up.
Yeah. Yes. And that's what so much of our religion and culture is built on.
Hmm. Yeah.
So thank you so much, everybody, for being
Yes,
here
thank you
tonight.
guys for attending and being here and being open to what we had to talk about tonight. I appreciate it. And thanks, Aaron, for having me. And the more people that I can get this information out, the happier I am. So I appreciate you bringing me in.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.